ʻadudlit.átk, ʻati, ʻtakatiuhan. ʻadudlit ʻyachsatini yachana. Gwashuqua yach tuasuguyich achowusich atawusake, ijiwu. Itoagasuku khatkiusi. Yahayu katangidat katadasa. Any questions before we get started or as we get started? Okay.
Kune,
Ah,
did you ever hear of a word for a salmon spawning bed?
I don't think so.
I might ask Bessie or Sam, unless the person just says where the salmon spawn, you know?
Yeah,
Salmon spawn.
I was trying to get salmon spawn for a long time. And I think it's just the same as any other fish, which is it wooneiyí? Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Let me check. Because I imagine you could do one of those verby yeah things. And if you're gonna ask them, I got two other questions that I want to float out there. If you folks are talking with speakers, is there some term we use for when the salmon mothers bite the riverbanks before they spawn? I remember hearing about it from Joe Hotch. It was in Tlingit, but it was a long time ago and I wasn't sharp enough to write it down. And then a ring around the moon that tells you when like the weather's gonna shift or something. So I had a student ask me about those things. So, and then the spawning grounds, huh?
It might even be that verb to breed, heat. Is it heat?
Yeah. ʻadudlit is for fish because they hit it too. So ʻadudlit is the name of that. ʻadudlit and then ʻadudlit. So that one is to breed or multiply. Yeah, I mean, I would think something like ʻadudlit, but that's if you made it. Oh, yeah, so that's a good one. And we should always be thinking of things that we haven't found yet, so we can go and ask the speakers. So we're looking for spawning grounds. We're looking for salmon biting the river, and we're looking for a ring around the moon. I heard it was like when it was gonna storm or like some weather shift was coming. Okay. Any other thoughts or questions?
I had a really quick thing. So, this weird thing happened at Houtling Elementary where admin decided that they wanted me to help facilitate, like alongside the guidance counselor, some like art therapy, and then like mix it with culture. And then I just asked if I could teach it in Tlingit just because, and they let me. So that was pretty cool. Although I wanted to like relay what I typed up for like the intro discussion, see if maybe you can correct it, because I kind of tried to just piece a couple of things along by myself, and that was hard. And then my question is, kids that have never heard the language before, like non-Indigenous kids, they often laugh like when they first hear it and say, oh, that's weird, that's a funny sound. And I don't know how to respond to that. Like, I can't really tell like a first grader that he's disrespectful. Like, I mean, I've taught about respect, but I don't really understand that concept. And, you know, you can't smack them. So I need a little bit of help, like, responding to these situations. And then, like, there was a fourth grader today also that was just, she started going off about Molly of Denali, which had nothing to do with what we were talking about, and then calling her ugly and stuff. And I'm like, who thinks like this? But that's, I don't know, catch a can kids, I guess. So if you have any answers for that, that's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, well, like there's some harsh vibes out there. I guess it kind of comes down to like the age of the kid. So like with younger kids, I would really try to, personally, I would try to just get them to come in and say, oh, well, you know, our languages are important, and you wouldn't like if someone laughed at you because of the way you talked. And so just try to reframe it and those things, but try and keep it pretty positive. And I guess when they get older, that's when you're trying to really push. But like, I think all of us know, like, not everybody teaches their kids about respect, you know. And so if it's just being disrespectful and stuff, that I think it's a little bit harder to manage personally. So I don't know if other teachers of, you know, younger kids have any thoughts on it.
Quantine? Gook? I thought I saw your hand up.
Like I was waving. I want
okay.
to say that when I was teaching, I was asked to go up the Stakhin River and do some culturally relevant things. And I think it was fourth graders, and I asked the question, do you know what a Tlingit is? And this boy said, a savage. I said, what? So that's what they said, a savage. They're savages.
Oh my.
And I said, well, I think that's what they used to call them, but we're Tlingits here in Wrangell. You know, community-based people that kids don't know, actually. That's all I had to say.
Yeah, sometimes we got our work cut out for us just in terms of dealing with some of the misconceptions and racism that's out there.
I'd like to offer that a lot of laughter is in response to unexpected things. A lot of the humor that we have is because we're taken down a certain path and all of a sudden it's turned and, oh, it's funny. So I've been in a lot of situations where, say somebody starts speaking in a different dialect and it's funny. And it's not necessarily because the dialect itself is funny, it's because of the change and it was unexpected. So I would suggest that one approach with the little kids is to, or anybody when they start laughing, and I've done it myself. Well, not exactly, but I'll tell you about that in a minute. You know, say, oh, you didn't expect to hear that. And this is, you know, then our language that has existed for these many years. And you're going to be so much better off when you can recognize the language. You'll say, oh, I'm hearing Tlingit. You'll know it's not English. You'll know it's not Spanish. But I wanted to say that one time I was in a classroom with students and they were learning their language, Tunu ʼadudlit, and I got something in the grammar. And I just laughed because I was so happy. And one of the older students turned to me and said, don't laugh at our language, because that he interpreted it that way. And it wasn't that way.
Okay. And there's, oh, go ahead, Ashke.
Oh, I was just gonna say that I think if it's new to kids and they haven't been hearing it and everything, yeah, it's gonna sound very strange to them. At our school, we're really lucky because they've just all come along all this time. And not that they're all fluent Tlingit speakers, but they all have been hearing Tlingit, at least at school and from the time they were in Head Start and preschool. So we're really lucky that way. Another thing is that you don't want to try to make kids or any learners say stuff right away, because then they get nervous and scared, and maybe then they'll start kind of making fun, because they don't want to try to say that because they can't unless they want to. Sometimes I'll have a non-native teacher in the classroom with me and they're trying to make their kids say all this stuff. I'm saying, oh no, it's okay, they can just listen, and if they want to, they can try, it's all right. But anyway, so goodness cheese, it's good to talk about. It's good to talk about because I think we're all in different situations. So goodness cheese.
Yeah, goodness cheese. And there's a stereotype out there too that Tlinkits don't laugh. And sometimes when we're doing our language and stuff, like we can sometimes make it all sacred all the time. And so there's kind of a balance there, and we want to keep it fun. And we laugh a lot when we're speaking our language. And so, but then if they're laughing at us for being us, then there's some stuff to sort of tease out there sometimes. But to do it with love and kindness, because like we can transform those future generations a lot easier than we can the current ones. Like the current ones, we just gotta let them live out, you know? And so there is some of that stuff. And then sometimes you never know, you might know a kid's parents, and then you come in and then you're reacting to the kid's parents instead of the kid, and maybe they're a product of their environment as well. But yeah, these are great topics, because some of our communities too, it's there's some real harshness out there just in terms of what people think. We used to have, like my nephews and cousins and stuff, they would come home sometimes when I was in Skagway, and they'd tell us the stuff their teachers are teaching them sometimes about Indigenous peoples, and would have to fix a whole bunch of stuff, would have just fix a bunch of stuff. So. Okay. Sheesh.
Sheesh, guys. I really appreciate you all so much. And this is very helpful for me as I like navigate my way through too. And it can be really rough, especially in like communities quite like this, and especially when you know their parents. I definitely never heard that stereotype about Tlinkits not laughing. I feel like every Tlingit I've ever met probably laughs like more than anyone I know. At least all my friends laugh a lot. So that was surprising.
Okay. Okay, any language questions? Anything you're thinking about?
I just might add real quick to this conversation. It's making me think of just like global trends too. Like when I was in Ireland and I heard Irish for the first time, I felt this weird like discomfort. I'm like, whoa, that sounds funny. Like, but I kind of realized that since there's been like this conflict between like the English language and the Irish language for so long, like the way that the kind of colonial mindset is set up to tell you what sounds funny is like based on like the Irish language. It's like it's been put down for so long, so they're like, oh, what sounds weird and not right is like that. Like, and it's a really deep like internalized kind of shame that people have. And one reason why people don't like why people oppose language revitalization over there, they're like, it sounds funny. Yeah, so I would think maybe there's similar things going on, and I think for young kids, just like, I don't know, I think they have an ability to grasp the importance of language learning. So talking to them about that, and then inviting, like telling them that they can be a part of it too, part of that importance.
Yeah, and teaching tolerance as well. Like I remember when Walmart was existing in Juneau, where Walmart puts a tea, yeah, and I was there at like midnight buying diapers or something, you know, and there's a group and they were speaking Tagalog, right? And I just wanted to tell them that I thought it was cool. And I said, hey, are you speaking a different language? And they said, yeah. And I was like, what language is it? And they told me, and I was like, that's really cool. But even just asking them, like I could tell I I made the situation uncomfortable. Even if I wanted to be, I just wanted to tell them that I thought it was great. And even though I told them that, I could just feel like some discomfort just by acknowledging that. And there are some people who there was a lady in Skagway, and she was going on and on about how someone who worked on the ferry was speaking a different language, and he wasn't supposed to because he's a state employee. So like, there's all kinds of just fascinating things out there about it. So, yeah, sheesh. So, unless you got any other questions, I tasked you with coming up with 10 sentence mini narrative of some sort. And we're all going to share what we came up with. And one person is going to respond to, and so hopefully you got it. You're going to give us this 10 sentence thing. Then you're also going to respond to one person's 10 sentence thing. And what I would like us to do, just to put it in your mind for next week, for the Monday class, I would like you to put together a short thing where you tell us how to do something. I think that would be really neat, right? And I'll show you a project a group of us were working on, Kastin, Dashjini, Yatutin, Nak, we were all working on this. And so when we're making stuff in the language, and we're hoping to publish a whole bunch of these mini readers. I know ʼadudlit.átk, you've made a bunch of little stories. It would be great to publish some of these. And I call them little because we're thinking about like targeting families and younger kids, which I've got this other book, but they're big, right? And so big in terms of like the target is probably like adult learners. And like we could take like the simplest things and it's going to get hard for everybody. But like, so thinking of this, like we got some decisions to make, which I think is really interesting, because if you're going to do like a little how-to manual, so ʼadudlit.átk, are you going to use the fourth person? Are you going to use the second person, third person? So these are all, since we're dealing with kids, we figured third person imperfectives would be what we're going to go for, because even though the imperfective is unpredictable as far as the stem variation, it's something that's very common in terms of like it's happening right now. It makes sense. You're not adding the perfective or futures to too much stuff. But so then as we go through this, you got a katawu, or Kastin, do you want to read this? You're the voice of the book.
Do I have to read it, or can you just play it?
You have to.
Where's that? There's an iBooks version. Let me see if I can find it. I don't know where it go. Oh, maybe it's under my, hold on. Anyway, I'll send you folks the link for that one. But so like some of the things, so these are all third person. So you got achash, 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 or ach, achash actually. So the ach part is to cut off of something, right? Ach, achash. And then you've got the different names of the fins of the fish, right? So each of those fins has a different name. So the idea behind this is to, one is give folks to know the names of all these fins and fish parts. But then the verb is staying the same, right? So for these first ones, so you have ach, achash, ach, achash, ach, achash, ach, achash, achash. Even the head, so you cut the head off, right? There's a verb for decapitate, but I don't think that's what we're, it's just achash in this case. This is a verb ashqeq for cutting a fish open to remove the guts. There is a different one for if it's like a deer. And then ashqeq is the verb for removing the guts. So we also have a verb specifically for that. And then shlak is the name for the fillet. So there's cutting a fillet off and then cutting the backbone off. And then this is the ʼa'í is the bloodline. And then that's the verb for scraping. So it's like 10 sentences, you know, so think of something like that. If you want to use pictures, I think that's helpful. Something where you can, in this case, we're using third person imperfectives. You could use imperatives if you want to. So you could say, cut the fin off, right? So cut this fin off, cut that fin off. So those would all be nachash as opposed to achash. Yeah. So let's try that for next Monday. Does that seem okay? Let's try and give you folks tasks. Because then we come in and we just share language, and then we'll do some lessons after that. Okay. Okay. And there doesn't have to be any certain number of sentences, but it just has to tell us how to do something. So it's kind of a descriptive or a guide type of thing. I think it'll be fun. But for now, I didn't give you really too many guidelines. I said 10 sentences, and then one person will respond. So once someone reads their 10 sentences, feel free to give a response. But then if you gave a response, let someone else respond to the next one. And then, yeah, we'll start with that. ʼadudlit.átk Tlingit wooneiyí Ye'awa yuhan ʼadudlit.átk Ye'awa choach ʼadudlit.átk Qeuchne awa hayaw saqa Ye'awa ʼadudlit yach Wan qanins Tlingit ʼadudlit.átk Kashatina oti chaqut yuqatangi wan qanins. Yewe ade yagachtitlaqie. Tasayu qatangi tin. Aqawe wan qanins kash ulsi. Spuchin yuqagatitlaati. Yewe achtuti. Kachonach Ya yidat qoa. Woochin yuqagatitlaat. Tasadati jiwuni. Jenkat yuqatanka. Hechwasaku yuqatanka. Sentence qoa hechwasaku wasagachtusa. Adati tugachtusaat kwasye. Atisati tuasaku ya yidat qoa yuqiyatani.
In Khatune.
Kanshish.
Like yagi wika restaurant yewuti wika ye yasaka waiter haga nehi taka ye akatech yeyeti we waiter ku ye yoka shh the cut catch to asigu hastuji ye ati Wooch.
Kanshish. Tuinu khatan kleinach Yitu I guess a good su to achi. Kainacha, Yucatan, Buin. Kuwuch, Hitua Gessa Gutsui, Kai.
Dasa?
Tsuhain Natu, Yucatangi.
Okay. Tleka yagi weka restaurant yewuti weka ye ayosaka waiter hago nehi taka hi akatech yeyati waiter ko a yeyowaka shh the cut catch to wasigu hastu jif yeyati.
Okay. Ach, Daily Eke. Washteka Sai, Ach, Keshisaku, Dasawe, Anaus. Dasawe, Deko Agwashi Ide Katwanik, Dateksa, Tlingit Kinach. Washiatayach, Washteshisaku, Dasa Ach Tuasaku, Yi Sakai. Yat Klek we Johan, Yuchayatani. It ya in studel tu quash du ide aya yuchayatani yata yach gunil chi shain kai nigi yata quashuk hechosaku just Wooch in ʼadudlit.átk yake. It
Cut.
cook.
Huna Elementary School ye Jachane, Tlingit Yukatangi, Ku Atlatu City. Kindergarten Dach grade Kejinde has to eat Hatlatut. Zoom Kek. Aktuasigu Yi in Kahwani Dot where kindergarten lesson. Yayaki Yedu Asak Awe Da Sawe Gweth Tuwu. Juan Plain Ach Ide Gakdashi. Yekwe, Juan Plain. Juan Plain, Yangi Wene. Aware. Yadu Ahwesli. Das the web with two. Das the web with two. Okay. Das the web with two. With two. Juan Plain. Yes, the cougar.
Who?
That's that?
Hot. Cleedy.
Like, hot. Like,
Toos.
like, that's cute.
Yay.
Das away, wait. Yuck away, yay. Yeah. Yay away, yay. Okay. Das away, two. Das away, two. Quan Lane. That's the way too.
Oh. It's a tail.
Ayak away. Ayak away.
Tlachasaka. Ah, douche.
Douche, yeah, aware.
Douche.
Yeah, aware, douche. Douche, yeah. Yeah, aware. Yak, eh. Flake soup. Flake soup. That's a great too. That's a.
Ah, gook. Yeah. Kate Yuddy.
Yeah, aware. Yeah, aware. Or Kate. Yeah, aware. Kate.
Kate.
Yeah, aware. Kate, yeah. Yak, eh. Kunak, yak, eh. Yeah, aware. Yak, eh. Lucha. You didn't like at. Yeah, aware. Yak, eh.
Buenos cheese. Wooch.
I guess I'm here, huh?
Ah. Hakiwusaka.
Dasa?
Itu agasago eat ko high.
Shaslasaku.
Twasa. Just drink card sentences.
Oh, fake.
Twasa. Adu itsako aha.
Well, Hatage.
Ah.
Ach, twasigu we screen share. Kushe. Kunashish. Kune, could we not record this?
Okay.
This schoon awe hayatki hidi awe was tleka yatki ye hasnaat ka Tlingit yuktangi stutu tu ya yahayi ya kruk ya yahayi Pastu walk chiik kwati yat atsu ka yat atsu ka der kawus we yat ki adusawe ka dasa dujiwu Ethan ye duasak ka gaw dujiwu aktuasigu dasa dujiwu shukranach dasa dujiwu drum he has a drum he has a drum hat ko gaw dujiwu chagut yagi dasa dujiwu Go. Hut ko gao dujiwu. Chagut yagi. Dasa dujiwu. Yehas Yosika, Gao Duji Woo. Just Tlingit Yat, just Tlingit Yadi, Gao Duji Woo, Ye Yawaka, Aga Awet Tlingit Yatki, Gao Duji Woo, Yehas Yosika. Akwa Woos Tsu, Dasa Duji Woo. Yehas Yawaka. He has a Gao Duji Woo. He has a Gao Duji Woo. Tlech Masa. Tlek Sunday Kak Awe. Tlek Sunday Kak Awe Ka. Wayatki. Just Nusk Talk Hut City. Kuna Tlingit Yuktungi has a Kaya Akchu Yahwaka Dasa Itina Khatiati. Coffee, you need coffee. Yehas Yosaka. Aga Awe Kashon Khatsiti Yahwaka. You're not an old man. Yehas Yawaka. You're not an old man like that. Kunach Yake Achijini. Kunach Kasagu Awe. De Awe.
Goodness, cheese. Yake. Kainacha Yohanach Tawasagu do Inukiatani do Yucatangida.
Nach Lishu Cheat Woo. Kat Ka Stuga Hassa Hastidi Check Gonna see you Tangi Yisne.
Yakecha. Yeah, wait, that's so. Yeah. Hayukatangi could yakutziti yag. Ya Kainach we at Katsku. Hutsu, Hosatin. We gymnasium, a yich. Hu oeka achid. Hasakawa ak. We just a cut that we kucheta on Ashas Kautriet. Ka has our kish. Aka awe hu owe Hosatin. Just with the hun. Ya de court to court to Wasaku. Hu owe a kawa aku. We what's Ash Kautlich 8 Aka awe. Ye yachsaka. Guk. Kana ak. Hoko achat yosaka. I don't know how. Awe ko awe. Adiatki has to inuch achtatani Tlingit enach. Kachwasa achtu yike. Tlingit hasachaya achchi.
Kun talk somewhere at Yatke.
Waita has gwall dawkuno has to katagu. Ja uski
Yeah.
Zuk Johan. Jinkat sentences ayach to us a gui redachaya huachi. Chadasada. Het was a two.
Panachotas was a Google. Yeah, Yatke. In you Tangi. Cajun talk or Nasketi. Yeah. Hunter as well at that. That was a good dasser. is de ik gaat toe. Atayo gaat tangi o ete. Kijk ach toe she. Konnaga ach eten zoetli ach. Ja, song kijk ach toe she. Is he cool of twinkle, twinkle, little star. So I told them in English, I'm going to say it, then you have to say it after me. ʼadudlit.átk, ʼadudlit.átk. Haziawaka. That's a mistake, yes, I was named. That's it. That's a as to eager to that too next because just I had to win had when they next line or what just I didn't crack when as I was cool das was easy as I was saw the cut. So I never had the experience with children. As Yukatangi to taco as I was cool. So next time I was gonna be really ready for them. And they ʼadudlit.átk is to eat of two as I was cool yes tank where at she got to she cut over as I was cool eat that. So I learned a lot from those little children. To siku stuin. Gonna cheese.
Okay, gonna cheese away. I ain't Niki. Get that away. Okay. Ach, tu was klein nacha Johan. Du in Yuchiatani. Just jay cooking kana up. Got that you took the ton, so yeah.
Goed.
Cook.
Ook away, catch ook, jak yadi. Jak yadi shukwat, catch ook, see cereal yik. Kacht you do a sag. Cereal ha. Gonna cheese ish. Hi. So yak yadi do G saksi kaktu we kiksadi kachu gun Tashugu Yauk Plain Big Tashugu Yauk Plain Taka Taka to Katu yeah, wait, Hooch. Gonna see.
Sheesh. Yak kaya. Achawete uski ka.
Yak kaya.
Kaya. Kwashi. Aka away yage at. Was kakki chak weta yak. Kakki dach. Dach yidu sago at was tash yan wooneiyí Aka away yak kukwati. Ye awa. Yak shaka yidu sago at kayak geek. Ye ke awa. Kadachach to asaku. Watusaku. Ade you ʼadudlit.átk Adata wa yak ka. Ade awshayechiye. Ade wudutliyechiye. Ya ye awa adatu tukhta tansu. Data tinach sahayati. Aka awe adatu kagachtusha ati. Ka igachtusha tu. Ade awe kakwat. Gachtuch ak. Ya yak. Chin. Shakt. Chadasa. Ye awe achtuati. Galchish. Ya gwall isi ayach was ayanach ke we cereal I ish yak
I wasn't even done with it, and I was like, God dang.
Nach city EC.
What's that?
Nach city EC.
Kiksadi kachu kagan hitach katkana auk.
Oh, okay. Dalgasa cereal ge awacha. Kicks again.
Yeah. Yay, tricks.
Ya khana yedlak kastin. Yak echa galchish. Naschanka went to yach away. Wait, let kak inachtu. Ushukakach tutlaati. Wasa at wooneiyí Ye awa adatu kagach tutlaat. Perfective achtu asagutu kagach ak. Ye awe naski gi khana ko kwash Tesha inka yinigi jinkat iyuchatangi achtu asagu kai kagachi aku. When chish. We'll switch it over to the lesson part. Thank you everybody for sharing. If you didn't get a chance, you could go on Wednesday. One of the goals was just to have you come up with something to say. And then probably the bigger part is to encourage us to respond to each other, which is just sort of trying to nudge us towards conversation, which is hard. It's hard to think of sometimes what to say. And then, so we'll think of things that maybe make it easier. I don't know, like putting it on the screen. Sometimes if we read it too, it's a little easier, but then we all gotta do a little bit more work. I don't know, we'll see. It's just for fun. It's just to engage in the language, to make sure we're using it. That was great. And then, yeah, so just keep thinking, and then we'll think of ideas. So next week for Monday, so Wednesday, just bring 10 sentences to share, just about anything. So we're seeing narratives, we're seeing just kind of sometimes just different things, right? And then not so much a prompt, just 10 sentences that you'd like to share, and then somebody should respond just to what you said. Like it's fine if it's just like, thanks for talking, but you know, ideally we're sort of engaging in a bit of a conversation, even though we kind of have to force it a little bit, but that's okay, because the idea is to be able to be reactive with our language, which is sometimes something, if we're always in a classroom, we're not always necessarily used to that. And then for Monday, we're gonna, or the next thing after this, after everybody shares, we'll see how we're at. We should be there by Monday maybe, is you're going to show us how to do something using the language. So cutting fish, beating something, whatever the thing is. I don't know, fix a clock, whatever you want to do. So you're just going to sort of, and it's not like, don't add to it. Don't feel like you have to teach us something that you think we don't know how to do, but just instead focus on just the instructive nature of whatever it is, right? Here's how you draw an ovoid. Here's how you make pancakes. Whatever the thing is, I don't care about what the thing is, but I want us to sort of just focus on, and it's up to you if you want to use pictures and a third person kind of a voice, or if you want to use no pictures or some pictures, it doesn't matter, and use a command form, or you can use a future second person, right? You're gonna do this, then you're gonna do that. It's kind of up to you. So try it out, see what works for you. Okay, goodness, sheesh. So I think we left off here. So we're looking at continuing to predict what these verbs will be. And our general plan is to finish the perfective, then do the future. And then we're gonna do negative, we'll do the perfective, positive future, negative perfective. And those are some of the main sort of things that we use. Then we'll start looking at some other verb modes and just some other things like that. We'll also start bringing in this document that we're translating, the Swanton text, and we'll start walking through some sections of that. Okay, so once we look at the verb theme, there's these three things we got to kind of grab from here. What are the things that we're looking for? And then they'll tell us how to get the perfective. So when we look at now once you see any verb theme, you should be able to put it into a perfective. And you shouldn't have to look it up. And then after this exercise, you should also be able to put it into any of these subjects as well. So to review, the first thing we look for is there an object? And that'll tell us whether the third person will start with a, right? And so there is for both of these. It's an L classifier. There's the second thing. It's a positive perfective. So all of these classifiers should be sh. So we're going to have ausle and has ausle. The last thing is actually two parts. So we're looking at the stem. We see that's a closed stem. It's not marked high. And those are the things we're looking for. Is it open or closed, and is it marked high? Then we look at the conjugation type. It's zero. So a zero closed perfective, we expect to be short and high. All of these should be ach. All of these should be chech. And then the prefix will be identical on both sides. So with that, somebody tell me how to say. It's like an instrument. I played it, the instrument.
or something.
Okay, whoops, let me find, I kind of lost track of my slides. Oh, there it is. Right, so the object is going to be 0 for everything except for the third person. Then we'll switch to Okay, so we got we played it like a guitar. You played it. But not the t.
Oh, e. Oh.
Yitle'ach. Right, so yitle, and then we're going to get yitle on this side as well, right? Y'all played it. Harmonica, saxophone.
Yitli'ach.
Yeah, away. Yitle'ach. If you're from Teslin, yingle'ach. The gamma right there. They, singular they, played it. Outla'ach. They played it. You just gotta throw the has on there.
Has outli'ach.
Has outla'ach. People, it was played.
Instrument again?
Dasa?
Just Tlingit instrument again?
Oh, I don't know, maybe you're like a band, a bunch of stuff. Like a one person band.
A bunch of people playing one?
Oh, yeah, that could be. Yes, that could be. So has outla'ach could be, yeah, they played, one person played a bunch of instruments, maybe. Yeah. Or they played instruments.
Like the Temptations in a microphone?
Yeah, or like the person walks around, they got a big drum on their back, and then they could play all the instruments at the same time. It was played. ʼadudlit.átk, yeah, away. So this would be playing an instrument. It's a good question about whether it would be drums. Drums usually gwash a drum. So I would expect gwash, but if it's like a drum kit, then it might be tla'ach because there's kick in and stuff like that. So that's a good question. Okay, so these ones, and then it's all, you're just going to change ach to and then you got them all. So there's your key, gave you the answer. And then this is one of the verbs where there's an object. There's a version with an object and a version without. That's the only thing that changes. Usually there's some other kind of change that goes on. So the way you know it is whether there's a subject or not. So it has to be outle as opposed to wooche, right? And so without the object, you just took the object off of this one, then you have a state verb for someone to be dirty, right? Or it's probably an event verb. So with the subject in it there, or sorry, you don't take the object off, you take the subject off. I got it dirty. Yeah, we got it dirty. Yeah, you got it dirty. Y'all got it dirty. or ying. They, singular, got it dirty. Yeah, well, they got it dirty. They got it dirty. Yeah, well, it was dirtied. Just like this. Yeah, well, what about we got ourselves dirty? Anybody want to try that one? Yeah, oh what? We got ourselves dirty.
Would there be a whoosh?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Wooch.
So woosh, we got each other dirty.
Oh.
I
Okay.
guess there's a, yeah. So that's right.
This is
logically it would be a little bit different. Like so, would be like we're all walking along and then we all fell into the same mud and we got ourselves dirty. Woosh is I got you dirty, you got me dirty, and there was like a mud fight. That was good. That's good. So then we see the whoosh as opposed to the whoosh and the chush, right? And the chush is contracting to the sh. Okay. Okay. So what do we need to know about these ones? Are three things.
no object.
No object, right? So we should, instead of ow or we should be expecting w and husw. That's thing number 2.
L.
Yeah, it's a D plus L, so we should have gle, 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 gle. Fourth person won't change, right? So in this case, woodle and huswoodle. What else?
Zero.
These are both, yeah, they're both zeros. This one's open, so we expect it to be long and high. This was closed. We expect it to be short and high. This one is also marked high, so it does not go low. And this one has the SH in front of it as well. So that it's just an extra thing. It's just got to pop up before the object. So with that, I rested.
What we saw.
What they saw. We rested.
saw.
Okay. You rested. Yitli, right? So when we go back to the last one, we had yitli. So this will reveal the pattern. We're going to have yitli, yisse, yidze, yidle, yishe, yidje, right? So that consonant is the thing that will change. And then the difference between the y and the ew is the y is you did it, and the ew is it happened to you. So we just watch what side of the perfective marker it pops up on. Okay. Gitlesa. Y'all rested.
Yidlasa.
Yeah, away. Yitlesa. Ganchish. Yitlesa. Sorry. Put a little T in there. Okay, they, singular they, rested.
Woodlisa.
Yeah, away. They rested. Put a hus on it.
Haswoodlisa.
Yeah, away. Haswoodlisa. People rested.
Woodudlit.átk.
Yeah, away. Woodlisa. So these ones going down, the prefix, let's see, so sa is where the stem is. Everything before that is the prefix. Chhuatle, wututle, yidle, yidle, woodle, haswoodle, wudutle. Those prefixes will be exactly the same over here. There'll be an sh before it, but the rest will be the same. And then sa is now going to change to kat. As far as the translation, you could say kept yourself quiet. I guess that's the command form for this verb is often interpreted as shut up. So just keep that in mind. But we'll say, I kept myself quiet. Okay. Don't keep yourself quiet, no. We kept ourselves quiet. Yeah, wow. You kept yourself quiet. Okay. Y'all kept yourselves quiet. But maybe don't keep yourselves quiet. They, singular, kept themselves quiet. They, plural, kept themselves quiet. Ooh, where does the hus go? On the outside.
Hus.
So the hus is usually one of the outermost things. If there's some sort of motion thing or something, that comes before the hus. But the hus comes, this sh is an object pronoun, right? It's in the same spot as ha and chat and yi and I. Okay. And people kept themselves quiet. Yeah, awesh. Sheesh. I guess it's a fitting time to go over, let's see, I've got to find it. I'm going to show you folks this poster. Hold on a second. Now I got to find it. Ishan. Isakuka, we jukatin, adata we yukewatan. Ach ishi, yehayam sakayan. Ayikt wushakat yak, chiklak, stay na kuch. Was that it? I had to go from memory. Ayikt, ach ishi. Hayo sakayan, a yikt wushakat yak, chiklak aste na kuch. But you want to interpret that? Some of you might know it already. But it's got this verb kind of in there. A boat full of silence always drifts towards the waterfall. It was cool. She said, my father used to always say this to us. Okay. So now we're going to do, there's not very many S. So the pattern, there's a handout on our class webpage under tlingitlanguage.com that sort of goes through this whole thing. And I think the handout that's up there doesn't have the answers. And I'll give you the one with all the answers. I just don't want you to memorize the answers. I want us to assemble them. So that's why I kind of withhold them until we're done with the exercises. But this is the last set, and then we're going to add the thematic prefix to see how that changes it. And it doesn't change it a whole lot, but it does change it. So for this one, there's just the SH and then the D plus H, because there's not very many of either of these, especially the D plus H. There's hardly any verbs that have that one. But going through our 3 things on our checklist, there's an object here, but not here. So now these ones are going to be different. Okay. This is SH, this is D plus H. So these ones should be sh. These ones will be j. Gook. So here's the example of when we look at the theme. So we say, okay, it's closed, but it's also got this little X, so it's invariable. So it'll be gook every time, it should be. It's a g state verb. So the perfective, we would expect it to be long and low, but it can't go low, so it will stay high. Ain is also closed, also stays high. It's na, so we expect that to be long and low, but the override is in the stem itself. So both of these, this one's invariable, this one stays high. So with that, we should expect ausche and has ausche. And then here we should expect, I think we're going to do ut. So ut is going to be the motion preverb for all of these. And then we should get woodje. Okay. So here's the know how to do it verb. I know how to do it.
Kwashiguk.
Kwashiguk. Yeah, well, we know how to do it.
Tushiguk.
Tushiguk. You know how to do it.
Ishiguk.
Yeah, way. Ishiguk. Y'all know how to do it.
Yishiguk.
Yeah, way. Ishiguk. They, singular, knows how to do it.
Shiguk.
Yeah, well, shiguk. Okay. They know how to do it. Plural.
Has shiguk.
Yeah, well. People know how to do it. It's got to go plus D.
Udujiguk.
Yeah, well. Udujiguk. Okay, cheesh. So because this one is a motion verb, the plurals will be different. I guess when we get to the plural, I'll see if anybody can predict it, and then I'll tell you what the pattern is. Okay. I jumped around. Because the song told me to.
What your king?
Yeah, well, ʼadudlit.átk. What's going to happen when it goes plural? Anybody got any predictions? With motion verbs, there's some patterns we see when it goes plural. For gut, it switches to ot, but this one does something different. Anybody know? The subject is going to actually bounce outside and be an object, and then you're going to get ʼadudlit.átk. It's just how it goes. So sometimes you do get a frozen, what appears to be a fourth person pronoun in there for these plurals. And there's a few of them that would do this. ʼadudlit.átk. ʼadudlit.átk is how George Davis wooneiyí, she would say like the fish were swimming like together. So in this case, with using an object plural pronoun and then ʼadudlit.átk, everybody got a prediction? It's unusual. This one's unusual.
ʼadudlit.átk.
ʼadudlit.átk. All right, so it does get long. It is unusual because you see an object that's a subject. This does happen with other things. You say, we ran there, right? And it gets unusual too if you want to say like, let's go there, right? Okay. You, singular, jumped around. It should look just like this, but instead of SH, it's going to change to J. Yep, just throw that same thing on there. Just right there. ʼadudlit.átk. ʼadudlit.átk. You jumped, okay. You all jumped around. Again, it's gonna look just like this. So this one's unusual, so I gotta help coach us through that. But that object pronoun will change to the object plural second person.
ʼadudlit.átk.
ʼadudlit.átk. Okay. They, singular, jumped around. ʼadudlit.átk. Yeah, oh wow. But now it's going to follow this pattern here. They, plural, jumped around.
ʼadudlit.átk.
Yeah, oh wow. ʼadudlit.átk. Fourth person is usually plural. So that should follow the same pattern.
And now maybe we can go now.
People jumped around. ʼadudlit.átk. So you've done every possible subject classifier combination, pretty much. the D plus H is kind of hard to find. And so what you have to keep reminding yourself of is like this SH, that's actually the only part you're really changing here in the prefix. So we went chwase, like chwasetin. Then we had chwadze. Then we would have chwashe, chwadle, chwashe, chwadje. So it's that consonant. And so I know Zeosh has been doing a lot of stuff to just look at this classifier and just keep thinking about what's going on here. And so what we're changing that consonant, because that consonant puts it into this kind of a category. And then we have the letter I is the thing that shows us that we're talking about a specific part of this verb, which I think is the verb happening, right? That's what we're talking about. Verb happens, go plus I. That's a good way to think about that. I being part of the classifier. And so like the main switch in the classifier is when that consonant changes, because it's shifting groups on us usually. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna just walk through them again. Let's see what happens when we now have ka or ya on the front. And the biggest thing is probably the second person in terms of how it changes the second person. So, you know, to say ʼadudlit.átk or kaishachit, right? So those are gonna be the second persons for there. But we'll try and just do this like the last 30 minutes of class. Or we'll just see how this goes. We'll do a little check-in maybe next Monday as well, or some other time, and just see. Like I try to be open to feedback, and I know some of this is pretty technical, and so I try to balance that with just using the language. But if you have other ideas or thoughts or things you want to try, just let me know. So if you didn't share your 10 sentences with us yet, try to do that on Wednesday. And then if you didn't get a chance to respond to someone, try to also do that on Wednesday. And then next Monday, we're going to do instruction through the language. So showing us how to do something using the language. Any questions or anything? Okay. Yak echa, g'nchish Johan. Wooch yekach tustin, naskegig. Okay.
Sheesh.
Sheesh. Sheesh.
Sheesh. Sheesh.
Echa.
Sheesh ha'ik ʼadudlit.átk kunach.
Wooch echa, achat, g'nchish.
Sheesh.
G'nchish. Ha'in yuchiatani. Yak echa. Wooch.